Welcome to Build Insight, and this is the 10-star build with our friends Backman Builders and myself, Anthony, from Outlier. And today we're just going to go through and talk about some of the slab detailing that make this project unique and why it's performing as well as it does. Now, you can see behind us we've got concrete going in, so there's going to be a bit of background noise, but we'll do our best to walk through all with you. And yeah, please come along and have a look at some of these details.
Alright guys, it's a high performance slab here in Kyneton. Got our structural footings all poured and set nicely. Done a compact in between here, between the pads, give us a nice flat deck. So it's a little bit the opposite to a raft slab where you'd have your pads coming up and over and nice and set. That part's done a little bit differently, so we'll go into that in detail, but pretty much got a flat surface here that we're going to be working with. Got our poly barrier in between, which is our sub base onto a poly, and here's where we start bringing in our insulation. So we've started down the back with a staggered start with the boards across the slab. It just does really nice interlocked kind of install. These panels have a lip, as you can see, they all interlock. So it's a 75mm XPS insulation, equates to roughly an R2.25 rating, and it's continuous, so there's going to be no gaps, no thermal bridging. So as we get the install going here, we've got our dowel bars Rio, chem set these in. That's going to come over and pin, so this mesh, top mesh, will lift up. I'm standing on it, so we can't get that up, but then we get our bar chairs under, and then that's going to be ready for a slab pour. So we'll go through the details and what XPS is actually going to do in length, but pretty much this is going to, why we call this a high performing slab, it's actually going to be really energy efficient for the home, keep out thermal bridging, and the home's going to be able to control what the house is doing. Got a set down section over here, it's going to be our wet areas over here, and at the back where our pipes are. And set through, got termite collars that will come up through here. We'll finish around that XPS nice and neat for the pipe penetrations. Okay, so we've talked set out throughout the establishment of getting our 10-star build underway here. So just highlight here a couple of little details with our hurdles. So we want to color code things so we're not just writing, some of the writing might wear off or get a little bit confusing when we've got lines close together. So here basically we've got a 290mm wall assembly, which is from outside of our brick all the way into our inside of our 140mm wide frame. So basically what we want to hone in on here for footings, firstly, that was our outside of our brickwork, so we want to make sure our first line when we dug our footings out is relevant to that. And then secondly, once that's done in the second stage of the slab, we've gone to our decoupled boxing and setting up our 50mm XPS rebate foam. We've got here our green marker with our nail, which is what's set up at the moment. So where this is a little bit different is our actual good indication here is this is a 140 rebate we've got in situ here that's going to be a set down for a window, get a nice finish on that. So as we can see here, we're going to have 90mm slab, and we're going to be able to sit our wall basically 90mm in a traditional manner, and then also that's going to cover the 50mm XPS, so it's going to be all nice and flush on the outside once that's all poured and stripped. So where the set out differs a little bit, outside of our bricks out of here, and then we're coming over our 150, so that's our 110 for our brickwork, 40mm cavity, and then we've got a line that the concreters can set up with, and we know as we head down that boxing. It's all propped, ready to go. That basically is going to be the reference for the pour. And that's, yeah, pretty much setting up the outside of our wall plates. So when we come later on, top of concrete's at the top of the XPS, we've got our rebate in situ here. We'll basically come in down the truck, and that'll be the outside of our wall frame. It's all looking nice and neat. As said, same scenario here. So as we come through, that's what we're working to. One of the requirements here from our engineer is that all of our external edge beams would have 400 center dowel bars. So we can see here, we've got our N12 bars that are now bent over, holding down that bottom layer of mesh. We've got our lower bar chairs and we've got our higher bar chairs. So we've got 2 layers of mesh here that run around the perimeter. And then we've got a hatch section through the middle. So as we get different ground conditions here, there might be more moisture content and so forth, and as this is decoupled slab, basically the moisture in the environment through from the engineer specifications, computations, that there was belief there to have 200 center dowel bars from our internal beams. So highlighting this hatch section, if we work in from all the edges right around the slab, we've got external dowel bars running at 400mm centers all the way around, and then as we come in from our external edge beams through to our internals, for the first 2.5 meters we've got dowel bars at 200 centers, and then it goes back out to 400 centers through that whole hatch section with a single layer of mesh, and then around the perimeter, as we've said, double mesh. So this house is not going anywhere. It's been fantastic working with Andrew, the engineer. He's very easy to talk with and go over details, especially for something that's not a common slab that we know here in Australia. Our clients have invested in an insulated slab, so we want to give it the best chance of performing we possibly can. So we've got it, we're working on top of a compacted footing and pad, so it's reasonably flat, although it is a rigid board, the XPS. So cutting it in, we've still got some areas where we might get a little bit up and down with the base, especially once we put the steel on it. There's a fair bit of weight in our steel, so we have spent the time to go around with a expansion foam just to get it in there. It's a low expanding foam. It also is pretty tight, acts as another insulation, so we've got that right throughout the perimeter of the slab just to really buff it out, make sure there's no gaps and holes. So we can go right through. Anywhere there might have been, we've got, like here for example, a hammer drill bit got rested in there, so we've just made sure we've filled these holes up so we can go right through. But yeah, it's really tight, nice install, so we're making sure this is going to perform to the best of its ability as it's intended. Okay, so let's talk provisions here and how we're making the most of being as organised for a slab pour as we can. So first of all, the most obvious one here, we've got provisions in here. This is an electrical conduit point. That's a location for our island bench over here. So our electrician's got this placed in here ready to go into the kitchen wall. We can get that run in later on and connected. We come over here. This is our water point in here. So our plumber has got a water pipe sitting protected in here. That's running out underneath, and we'll be able to take that out across to the water mains to bring water in. Something else that might stick out here, we've got, as we've decided to put our rebate XPS foam on, there's a few ways of doing this, and we just thought we want to give it the best chance of sticking. So we've strategically placed in basically just some bugle screws. They've got a larger head on them. Basically, once it's poured and starts grabbing before the boxing is stripped, the idea is this is going to hold into the concrete and sort of grab. It's got a good chance of staying in situ where it is. That's running around the perimeter of the slab throughout. So we've also gone in and put a couple of extra provisions just through our joins. where we've got a joint in our XPS. There's a factory joint here, as you can see. It interlocks, but we've also decided that we're going to give it a good chance and put some bugles in there just to make sure that it's set in nicely. A little bit more time, but we want to make sure this just, you know, go to the effort and the work, and you know, clients are spending the money. We just want to make sure that's nice. So what we want to see here, we've got basically a 140 external wall system running all the way around. So this is just a piece of packing material. It's not our actual plates, but get the idea. So practically that's a 140 section there. As I slide this forward, what we're going to see is we're going to have 50mm cover over our XPS, and then we're going to have a 90mm. So if you look at it as a traditional sense here in Australia, we generally have a 90mm wall frame to make it more high performance and ensure we can get really nice insulation levels to suit our colder climate here in the Macedon Ranges, where we have, elect for most of our property homes that we do 140mm wide. So yeah, really good to have a look at that and just basically see how that's going to work. So yeah, a little bit more setup as we've been through. I've got through here, we've got triple glazed windows that are going in. So we've got our rebate set up in the slab here. This will be able to give us a zero flush finish as we go through. Get the shadow out of the way. What we've just gone through with a site meeting with our clients yesterday, we're going to have the option here to put in a Centaur retractable fire screen on this. So being a European product, it's going to be easier for us to get that done manufactured here and add that on to our system. It's all internal, so it won't affect our air tightness, but yeah, just have that provision there. If there's any issue and the client decides not to, we can always make sure we infill that little rebate before we lay our floors. So there you have it. That's just a little run through of the information of how our rebates work out.
Darren, why have we done the 50mm XPS installation on the slab edge here? Like, and how does that work with our framing to have a continuous insulation?
Yeah, so I'll just show you here. We're on our external walls here. We're going to be using a 140mm frame. So as you can see here, we've got a 50mm XPS. So when we start building our external walls, we're going to have our 140 plate, which will sit on top of our 50mm XPS, and then it'll still be sitting on 90mm of our frame here. So it's still got that structural integrity of sitting on 90mm, and then we've got our, obviously the 50mm, which is for all our thermal bridging and just keeping that nice and insulated, continuous coming up our slab.
So why do we insulate our slabs? In this climate, with our own data collection using certain in-ground sensors, we've seen temperatures as low as 7 degrees. And when you've got an internal environment or internal inside the home that you're trying to heat up to around 23, say, or 20 to 23 degrees, the thermal mass of the concrete is going to be absorbing that heat, and then it's going to be getting leached out at those colder temperatures that we're seeing in the ground. However, if we introduce, what we've done here is an extruded polystyrene board, insulation board, the blue board we can see in frame. If we introduce that, it now significantly slows down that heat transfer occurring. So all that thermal mass of the concrete has absorbed our heat as we're heating the internal space, but now it's drastically reducing that heat transfer occurring of going into the ground. So it's keeping the home at a more stabilized temperature, it's requiring less heating, or alternatively in the warmer months, cooling, and we're seeing a much more energy efficient, more comfortable home.
All right, guys, so one thing that we look at, first of all, before we start building, we need to understand through our envelope a continuous line for our insulation layer. So our XPS that we're going to cover up today, that is going to be covered by concrete, if we imagine this starting at this section here, we're going to go down, all the way across, back up, and as we start building our wall assemblies and roof assemblies, then we can basically keep going all the way up, over, and back down. So it's a really focal point there's some trickier details in here where we've got our levels that will go up that we'll go further into as the build progresses. We've actually got a higher garage slab over here. So there's some extra detailing that's involved to ensure that our XPS lines up to the top of that slab. And then from there, our insulation can keep continuing up that wall assembly. So yeah, if we imagine a pencil, just drawing a line continuous down, across, all the way up, over and back down, that's our continuous insulation and thermal layer.
So why have we designed the structural slab in the way we have here? As you mentioned, it's a little bit unique in the sense that we've got these structural strip footings and then we've infilled with sand in between those footings, flush, later XPS, and then poured a screed or topping slab on top of that and tied it in with structural steel. Now, the reason it's got all the starter bars, as we call them, or the structural steel that ties this top slab into the structural footings below is, why is that actually, Dean?
Yeah, well, I suppose, Anthony, we want to give our audience real insight to how we get to this point. So it's not just a builder and designer involved. We've actually got the engineer that is amazing to sort of get that information from. So practically what is happening here all the way around the perimeter, I'm showing detail. We've got the starter bars 200mm centers basically coming in from our edge beams. The reason he's doing that is because of the shrink swell in the seasonal moisture variations that we get here. So he believes with the data that he's got through soil reports and the actual steel design here, that if we come in 2.5 meters all the way around the slab, we're going to be able to prevent any shift in this slab moving around. People might say, how the hell can a slab move around? We're on a much larger scale than just a slab with the earth, and the seasonal conditions are unpredictable.
Yeah. So Andrew at McClure Engineering is who we worked with on this project, and we do on a lot of projects. You may have seen him in our Red Brick Reno episode as well. And what they've been able to do is come in with the geotechnical engineering crew, do soil testing on this site. They can understand the profiling of that soil and the moisture content, and then they can use historical data, which you've just described, Dean, which allows us to see what the seasonal changes are in moisture in these soil types in this area, and then they can design the slab based on that.
I think it's good too. We're not engineers. We're not going to try and be engineers. So it's another really good display of collaboration, and for the engineer to actually spend the time to really describe why something's designed that way is pretty pivotal.
We appreciate having that collaboration so much. To be able to be a phone call away at all times with the structural engineer and the geotechnical engineering team, it's just so valuable, and we see the outcome of it here. So.
So here we have it. It's nice and green. It's just literally been worked over with the helicopter. This is our detail we went through before. So we've got our double rebate here for our actual big sliding unit, triple glazing. We've got a smaller rebate in here for you can see where I'm pointing. So yeah, bigger rebate for the door system, smaller rebate for a fly screen unit. As we walk around, window rebate. Here's our nice finish, concrete, top of XPS. As we work around, it's our external section. Really neat. So we will, before we come through, we'll just, there might be a couple of little areas here where it's a tiny bit high with the XPS, so we'll make sure we've leveled that across, make sure that anything that's high is not going to affect our plates. Come through another window detail, window rebate here, window rebate here. As we step through, we've got like a higher hob section here with our showers, the old waterproofing detailing. our ensuite set downs. Land our pipe here in the wall. That's through. Really happy with this. The team have done an awesome job.